Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. I'm Julia, and today we are talking about something that comes up all the time in real life. How to explain your job in English. Whether you're at a party, on a first date, in a job interview, or just making small talk with someone new, someone is going to ask you, "So, what do you do?" And if English is not your first language, that simple question can feel really stressful. So today, we're going to make it easy. We're going to talk about what to say, how to say it, and I'll give you lots of real examples you can actually use. Okay, so let's start with the most basic version. When someone asks, "What do you do?" they are asking about your job or your work. The simplest way to answer is to say your job title. For example, "I'm a teacher," or "I'm a nurse," or "I'm an engineer." That's it. Just "I'm a," and then your job. Easy, right? But here's the thing. Sometimes your job title doesn't tell the whole story. Maybe your title is something complicated like Senior Data Analyst or Operations Coordinator, and the person you're talking to doesn't really know what that means. So it helps to add one more sentence that explains what you actually do every day. A really useful structure is this. I'm a teacher. I teach English to students at a school. So, for example, I'm a teacher. I teach math to high school students. Or, I'm a nurse. I work in a hospital and take care of patients. Or, I'm a graphic designer. I create logos and images for small businesses. See how that works? You give the title first, then you explain the action. What do you actually do? Use a simple action verb. Teach, build, help, manage, design, write, sell, fix, drive, cook, and connect it to who or what you work with. Now let's talk about some more specific examples so you can really hear how this sounds in practice. Imagine you work in a restaurant. You might say, "I'm a chef. I cook food at an Italian restaurant downtown." Or if you work in an office, you could say, "I work in human resources. I help with hiring new employees." If you're a driver, you might say, "I'm a delivery driver. I bring packages to people's homes." If you're a software developer, you could say, "I'm a developer. I build apps for mobile phones." And if you're a student and also working part-time, you can say, "I'm a student, but I also work part-time at a coffee shop." One thing I want you to notice is that you don't have to use fancy words. You don't need to impress anyone with technical language. In fact, simple and clear is always better than complicated and confusing. If your actual job title is very technical, it's totally fine to explain it in plain words. For example, instead of saying, "I'm a logistics coordinator," you could say, "I work for a shipping company. I help make sure products get from the factory to the stores on time." That's so much easier to understand, and people will appreciate it. Now, sometimes after you explain your job, people will ask follow-up questions. They might say, "Oh, that's interesting. Do you like it?" Or, "How long have you been doing that?" Or, "Is it a busy job?" So let's practice a few simple ways to answer those too. If someone asks if you like your job, you can say something like, "Yeah, I really enjoy it. Every day is a little different." Or, "It's okay, it pays the bills." That's a very natural phrase in English. It pays the bills. It means the job is fine. It's not your dream job, but it gives you money to live. You can also say, "I love it actually. I've always wanted to work in this field." That sounds very natural and confident. If someone asks how long you've been doing your job, you can say, "I've been doing this for about 3 years." Or, "I just started, so I'm still learning." Or, "I've been in this industry for a long time, since I graduated from university." These are all simple and totally natural responses. Let me also give you some vocabulary that comes up a lot when people talk about their jobs. The word industry means the general area of work. So the food industry, the tech industry, the healthcare industry. You can use this to describe where you work. For example, "I work in the education industry," or "I'm in the tech industry." Another useful word is field. A field is similar to industry. You can say, "I'm in the medical field," or I work in the field of education. Both are very common. The word position means your specific job or role. So instead of just saying job, you might hear people say, I have a position at a marketing company, or I'm in a management position. Now, here is something really important that a lot of English learners don't think about. The difference between I work for and I work at and I work in. These three little prepositions can confuse people, so let me explain. I work for is usually used before a company name or a person. I work for Google. I work for a small family business. I work for my uncle. I work at is used for a specific place. I work at a hospital. I work at a coffee shop on Fifth Avenue. I work in is used for a general area, a city, a department, or an industry. I work in finance. I work in downtown Chicago. I work in the marketing department. So remember, for a company, at a place, in an area or industry. Let's do a little practice moment right now. I want you to pause and think about your own job. Or if you're a student, think about the job you want to have someday. Try to say these three things out loud. Your job title. What you do every day in one simple sentence. And where you work using I work for, I work at, or I work in. Go ahead, pause and try it. I'll wait. Okay, did you try it? Good. Even if it felt a little awkward, that's totally normal. Speaking practice always feels a little uncomfortable at first, but the more you do it, the more natural it becomes. Now I want to talk about a tricky situation. What if your job is hard to explain or doesn't have a clear title in English? This happens a lot. Maybe you do a job that's very common in your country but doesn't have an easy translation. Or maybe you do a lot of different things and it's hard to summarize in one sentence. In that case, it's totally fine to describe what you do without using a specific title. You can say, I basically manage a small team and handle customer requests. Or, I help people with their finances, kind of like a financial advisor. The phrase kind of like is really helpful here. It lets you compare your job to something the other person might know. I'm kind of like a project manager, but I also do some design work. That's a very real and natural thing to say. Another phrase that's very useful is, I'm responsible for. This sounds professional and gives a clear picture of your role. I'm responsible for training new employees. I'm responsible for managing our social media accounts. I'm responsible for quality control at a manufacturing plant. It's simple, clear, and it works in both casual and professional conversations. Let me also mention something about tone. When you're talking to a friend or at a party, you can be very casual. Oh, I work at a bank. Nothing too exciting, but I like it. But if you're in a professional setting, like a networking event or a job interview, you want to sound a little more formal and confident. In that case, you might say, I currently work as a financial analyst at a mid-sized investment firm. I'm responsible for analyzing market trends and preparing reports for our clients. Same job, but different levels of formality. It's good to know both ways. Okay, before we wrap up, let me give you a few common mistakes to avoid. The first one is forgetting the article. In English, you need to say, I'm a teacher, not I'm teacher. That little A is important. If the job starts with a vowel sound, use an. I'm an accountant. I'm an engineer. I'm an editor. The second mistake is using the wrong tense. When you talk about your current job, use the present tense. I work at a hospital. Not, I worked at a hospital, unless you no longer work there. The third mistake is being too vague. Saying, I work in a company doesn't give people much information. Try to add a little more. What kind of company? What kind of work? The last thing I want to leave you with is this. People ask about your job because they want to connect with you. They're curious about your life. So don't stress too much about being perfect. Even if your English isn't perfect, if you say something clear and simple, people will understand you and appreciate the effort. Communication is about connection, not perfection. So let's do a quick review. To explain your job in English, say your job title with I'm a or I work as a. Add one sentence about what you do using a simple action verb. Use I work for, I work at, or I work in to describe where you work. And if your title is confusing, describe what you do in plain, simple words. Use phrases like I'm responsible for or I'm kind of like to help explain your role clearly. That's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. If you want more speaking practice like this, make sure you subscribe and come back next time. I'm Julia, and I'll see you in the next one. Keep practicing, keep going, and remember, every conversation is a chance to get better.